Hey guys, welcome to the Play Callers podcast. How's it going? Coach Kurt Broussard, Coach Chris Williams, and myself, Tracy Lynn. We're here for another episode, and boy, do we have a loaded show, and we're live. So anything goes, guys. Are you guys ready?
I'm
We
ready.
are
How's
ready.
everyone doing?
Going
Everyone
good.
good? Um,
Hey, it's
Great.
happy
Monday.
Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving to our Canadian friends.
There
Been,
you
I
go.
think I've had about
Oh,
four
Yeah.
dinners. Yeah. I'm
I
looking
forgot
like a
about that.
stuffed turkey these days. Yeah. Well, don't worry. I'm here to remind you of things like this. Okay. Right off the bat, let's get right into it. The Lakers. Yep. NBA champions. No doubt. I don't think I'm not surprised. How about you guys? Coach Broussard, what are your thoughts?
Definitely not surprised. The Lakers were a team that presented a lot of matchup problems for a lot of teams with their length, very long team, very athletic team, a lot of experience, a lot of playoff experience, and AD had the performance of his life throughout the playoffs. I mean, the man was unstoppable. I mean, hitting threes like Steph Curry for a minute. And so, I mean, he had an impressive performance. LeBron James is always steady, always the rock, always the leader. And, I think that puts him one step closer to, that big argument that's going around online when a
Hmm.
lot of fans compare him to MJ. I think that's another notch on his belt. That's uh
Hmm.
that's a little more ammunition for the argument table for him. And at this point I put him in that class with Magic Johnson. I think he's very comparable with his style to Magic as well as his accomplishments. I mean, obviously it looks like he's going to play 20 plus years, so
Mhm.
he's going to crush everybody in stats. But if you want to be
Hmm.
fair and you go back and compare his 15 years to MJ's 15 years, MJ has far more accolades. He has, of course, more rings. Of course, a better win percentage in the finals. Of course, more finals MVPs. Um, and then a lot of people say, well, Jordan had these great teams with Pippen, and he had all his help. But when you really look at things, I mean, Pippen never averaged more than 19 points a game in the playoffs. AD's averaging 28 points a game. So he weighed. I mean, he had healthy averages in the playoffs. LeBron has always put together these super teams, and not to take anything away from his victory. I'm not being bitter at him. I love LeBron. I think he's one of the easily top five players of all time. And I think the thing that takes away from LeBron when it comes to the argument of the GOAT is that, what did you do against your peers throughout your career? And let's go down the list. In the finals, Dirk beat him. Uh, Kevin Garnett beat him. Steph Curry beat him. And Tim Duncan beat him. And these are his peers.
Hmm.
You have to close out against your peers in these big championship finals if you want to be in that GOAT talk. If you want to be in the top 10 talk,
Hmm.
you can lose to your peers sometimes. But if you want to be in the greatest of all time talk, it's a complete package. A lot of people, get it twisted and say it's stats, but it's a complete package. You got to have the
Hmm.
stats, you got to have the awards, you got to have the impact, and you got to have the rings. Bill Russell just has the rings. He has good stats, but he doesn't have GOAT stats, but he has the rings. He doesn't have the impact. Jordan has the impact. He has the rings. He has the stats. He's a complete package. He's a complete package when it comes to that GOAT talk. And so that's where I'm at with it. Again, kudos to the Lakers. Great run. I don't really see anybody coming close to them unless they can form another super team, or maybe Golden State gets back in the swing of things to really challenge them. And that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Okay, Coach
I mean,
Chris Williams.
I think you make some great points, relative to LeBron and the GOAT conversation. Now, obviously, we happy for him and respect the fact that he was able to pull off winning a championship, in the bubble. I mean, I do think that this championship will always be remembered as the season that was finished in the bubble. So I think there's always going to be a little bit of an asterisk there, even though it's a championship, even though they're beating other NBA teams. I think we're all going to look back and talk about, the fact that they didn't have to fight that road crowd sort of a thing. So this one, and if you're a LeBron hater, I mean, there's some people out there that just straight, hate LeBron. If you're a LeBron hater, then you got to always bring up the fact that this championship was won in that bubble setting. So, so you're always going to have that hanging over this. But at the same time, I mean, me as a former coach and scout, I mean, when I look at the greatest of all time, I kind of look at it, one from the level of who's the greatest athlete player to do this, and then who was the most productive guy of all time. So to me, Michael Jordan, would never be rivaled in what he did as far as how he did it, the way he changed the game of basketball, the way he, won championships after leaving and attempting to play baseball. I mean, he showed us that, he was absolutely the greatest basketball player ever to play. Now, but I would say LeBron, there's something to be said about LeBron being the best overall athlete to ever do this. I mean, when it comes to size and strength and speed and ability to do different things at that size with handling the basketball. I mean, 20 years ago, LeBron James's body is basically, Karl Malone. I mean, so LeBron is, he would be one of the, if not the greatest physical specimen that we've ever seen do this, but clearly not the GOAT when it comes to the game of basketball and the winning of championships. That's always going to be Michael Jordan's title to have. And, but other than that, I mean, we looking forward, the Lakers are going to be a tough out because you've got a team that has a secondary superstar, a guy who eventually is going to take over the number one role in that situation. And it's going to be tough. If LeBron can stay healthy, I can see these guys, being right there in the mix of this thing for the next, say 3-4 seasons.
Okay, well,
I mean, I
valid
agree.
points, great points on both sides. Moving forward, Coach,
I would
yes.
before we move forward, I'll like to interject this. When you talk about stats and rings, Kareem has 5 rings, and he's got all the stats. He's got stats equivalent to LeBron's, and he's got 5 rings, and LeBron has 4. So if you want to make that argument, you can do that as well. If you want to talk about greatest athlete of all time when it comes to basketball, if you don't say Wilt Chamberlain, even though he played in the era where he was physically way more dominant, Wilt Chamberlain is 7'1". He's 280 pounds. When he filmed the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and they worked out pre-movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger said he was the strongest person he's ever worked out with.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's curling 200 pounds plus, and then I did a lot of research on Wilt. I didn't know he was a sprint champion in high school. He ran a 10,900 meters. Wilt Chamberlain.
Wow.
So I mean, dig deep in the Wilt if you ever get a chance, and then go back on that LeBron James greatest athlete argument. No doubt, LeBron James, you can make that argument. He's great. He's a better athlete than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's just a better basketball player.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about it.
Back to you, Tracy. Can you hear Tracy?
Okay, I'm having technical difficulties on my end. Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm back. Can you guys hear me? Where's that drink when you need it? There we go. Okay, so I lost it on that last part, but we're gonna talk to Coach. Yeah. I'm doing one of these today. Okay, Coach Williams. We're gonna talk. I want to talk to you about your football life and journey. Is anybody hearing me on this?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So you want?
Here we go. I finally can hear you guys now. So yeah, Coach Williams, please let's talk about your football life and your journey.
Okay. Well, I'll try to make this short and sweet as I can, but going back to my playing days, I'm originally from Mobile, Alabama, and Kurt is from a town very close to Mobile in Pensacola, Florida. And we like to think that where we're from produces between Pensacola and that Panhandle Gulf Coast area produces some of the absolute best players that you possibly want to see at the high school level. You know, it's if you can play high school football in the Pensacola, Mobile, Gulf Coast area, you can just about play high school football anywhere. So my high school days were played in Mobile. I played at a McGill Tulane High School there in Mobile, and I ended up signing and going on to play my college ball at the University of Louisiana at Monroe. I was a fullback. I was a running back when I played in high school. I was converted to be a fullback, which is a blocking fullback in college, and and that was a great experience for me. Now, I was not that type of guy who was going to move on into a pro career, but my college coaches always felt like I was a guy that would have a future in coaching, and they would always talk to me about getting into the coaching profession, and the profession needs guys that care about people and that sort of thing. So I started off through some of those connections coaching high school football in the state of Alabama, and from there, and coaching is all about connections and who you know and all that stuff. And so I was able to get into arena football through another one of my college coaches who happened to know Bobby Humphrey, who's actually the father of Marlon Humphrey, who just recently signed that big contract with the Baltimore Ravens. And so he gave me my first job as an assistant coach in arena football there in Birmingham, Alabama. Did that for a couple of years and got on the circuit of being an arena football guy, and bounced around to some different teams trying to climb the ladder to get to a head coaching spot, and finally got a head coaching position in 2004 in Odessa, Texas, which is really a great, great football town. And, had a great 11-year run in that city, and have been in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Have been in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I live now. I've been in Dallas, Texas through the arena football leagues. And after my last stint of arena football coaching, I went into the CFL as a scout with the Montreal Alouettes, and did that, for a little while. And, my thing has always been about trying to help players. Arena football coaches are always trying to develop people, always trying to get guys to the next level. We prided ourselves on getting guys to the NFL, and if you did numbers, and to brag on ourselves and pat ourselves on the back, we felt like we did a really good job of helping guys be promoted, and we're right there with some of the best coaches at that level of getting people looks in the NFL. So we're able to make good contacts there, and felt like we did what we wanted to do, which is all about helping players and helping guys develop, and I get a kick out of helping guys reach their goals. And so, scouting, coaching in the Arena League was all kind of the same. And here recently we've started up a new project here where we've developed, a partner and I have developed an HBCU college football all-star game that we're going to be playing our first version of that coming up this May after the HBCUs play in the spring due to COVID. So, sticking along the lines of always trying to create opportunities, using our connections and the people that we've met in the pro game, and wanting to help people and reach back. And as we transition from coaching to, kind of running our own business, I wanted to use that 20 years of experience and use that as a way to still, run a successful business, but at the same time, still always be guys that stay on top of evaluation when it comes to looking at players, and then creating a stage and a platform for guys to move up. So we're going to be making some big announcements with that coming up here, probably in the next 3-4 weeks, and talking about what that's going to be. But that's basically my football journey. It goes from playing to coaching to scouting to now doing a little bit of promotion.
Are you there, Tracy?
Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. We want to get to know you guys a little bit more.
Of course.
So we're going to move this along. Thank you, Coach Williams. Really appreciate that. Coach Broussard, you have something that's pretty cool and interesting that you do and you're involved with as well. And we need to put a spotlight on your foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I created a foundation that well, let me give you the start of how things came together. So basically I created a foundation to feed kids that are less fortunate in third world countries. And kind of the birth of that was I just took a trip for my birthday to the Dominican Republic. And while I was on my trip, just pretty much browsing around, walking around the country, around the city that I was in at the time, I just noticed a a ridiculous amount of young children, ages as low as 3 years old, walking, wandering around the streets with no parental guidance. So something just prompted me to Google, what percentage of kids in Dominican Republic don't have parents, and the number was just ridiculous. So there was 80, what is it? 94% of homes in Dominican Republic don't have a father. And I believe it was 70% of 70% of kids in Dominican Republic don't have parents. And some of the guys I was on the trip with, I started to talk to them a bit about, just the landscape of things with, kids being homeless. And they told me that they frequently visited an orphanage in this town that we're in, and they would, throw pizza parties for the kids, and they would just go and love on them and just be there for them, and it was just sad. I actually went to the orphanage with them, and you saw just countless of babies that were in baby cribs alone by themselves. With you had a few volunteers that were volunteering at the orphanage that was there to primarily care for them. But, when you got two people, you can't hold 15 babies, and I'm talking like 6 and 7 month old babies that pretty much just stay in the crib all day. And the only time they're taken out of the crib is to feed them. And then they're put back in the crib and they're just laying there. And so, there was another instance where I was just walking the streets and I encountered a 4-year-old. I thought he was alone, but he was actually living with his two big brothers. And the other brother was maybe 7, and the oldest brother, I think he was 10. It was a family of 3 boys that were living on the streets by themselves. And a lot of those kids are snatched up by adult Haitians, and the kids are pretty much forced into a life of pickpocketing, begging for change, and any money they collect, they have to come back and bring it to these older Haitian guys. And so just seeing the life that these kids were living, I just started to think, man, with the platform I have through football, there's some way I can make an impact to feed some of these kids that are hungry, because some of these kids, I mean, you buy them a hamburger and it's like, wow, it's a big deal to them. You give them 50 peso, which is $1. It's like a huge deal to them, And so initially I started just going back to the orphanages, and I would throw big pizza parties for the kids and play soccer with them and spend time with them. But then, like I said, I started to think about the platform I have through social media. How can I put together a campaign to generate more revenue to help more people? And so now I've embarked on a project now where I'm generating revenue. So if anyone wants to, contribute to help me feed these kids, I'm going to match whatever I collect in donations. I'm going to match out of my own pocket. And my plan is I've pre-purchased 600 pounds of chicken, because what prompted me with that idea is, how we got in America, we got the stimulus package, and the stimulus package was $1,200, per person or whatever. I started researching what's the Dominican Republic's stimulus package. What did those families get throughout this hard time? And it was discovered that their government promised each family 20 pounds of chicken and I think it was like 40 pounds of rice. That was their stimulus package. And so then I started asking some Dominicans, about it. And a lot of Dominicans never even received the chicken or the rice. And so it just made me think, okay, well, maybe that's something I can do. So I created I started reaching out to farmers that I knew in the area, or friends that knew farmers. And I pre-purchased 600 pounds of chicken. and I'm probably going to purchase about 800 pounds of rice from a factory, and we're going to get it all bagged up into like 10 to 20 pound increments in bags. We're going to load it up on and we put it in coolers, and I'm going to keep my social distance and keep my mask on. But I have some other Dominicans that are going to volunteer to help me, and we're going to pass out chicken and rice all day until it's gone. And we're going to hit hopefully 3 different communities. And so, I found a great price where I can purchase the chicken at the best price direct from the farmer. And so at this point, my next trip down to make this happen is going to be November 2nd. And I'm going to stay down for about 10 days. And like I said, I'm going down on business, but I'm also going to, make my contribution to feed communities through this campaign I've generated. So if people want to contribute, you can find the campaign on GoFundMe. You can find it on my social media, which is at Coach Kirk Broussard on Facebook, on Instagram. You can DM me. I'll send you the link, or you can just go straight to GoFundMe and search "Feed the Kids of DR," and you'll see it come up.
Wow, absolutely
awesome,
incredible.
Coach.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I honestly feel so lucky to be here with the two of you. Wow,
Yeah.
you both are very incredible, have had some great journeys, and you're doing such wonderful things, and you're so passionate about it. And as you mentioned, we have it up on the screen as well, where they can go. Plus, they follow us on all our social media. Both those links, everything is up there. So if you can contribute and help out Coach Broussard, that is more than welcome.
It's just one of those things to where I've always practiced. I've always believed in the philosophy that, one day we all have to close our eyes. I mean, it's going to be an end of time for all of us. And then I'm a man of God, so I feel like one day you're going to get up there and God's going to ask you, you didn't live in a third world country. You live in a first world country, and you had resources. So what did you do to help people while you were down there? I put you there to help people. What did you do to help somebody? And I want to help as many people as I can help before I close my eyes. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow, absolutely incredible. Okay, we're gonna go on to our next topic right now. We're gonna talk about Deion Sanders, the 21st head coach at Jackson State University. Coach Williams, I know you wanted to get in on this topic. I want to know, not only about him taking on this job, but also the evolution when it comes to HBCU football.
Well, I mean, I'll start out by saying that having Deion go into an HBCU situation is going to be awesome for the entire platform of HBCU football. I mean, he brings attention to it. I mean, there's going to be national media that are going to want to watch him. There's going to be sponsorship support that's going to be putting dollars into not only Jackson State, but locally. This is going to create a buzz amongst other universities in their local areas. So I think just having a name like that, and we're not just talking about the best defensive back to ever play, the best cornerback to ever play. We're talking about a guy that also has, one hell of a personality that people have been watching on TV. So he's got a voice. I mean, the guy's got a voice. He's got a great football history and background. So he's got great knowledge of the game. And, this is going to be, a situation where I think, people are going to be excited in the beginning because of who he is. But then there comes the reality piece of this. And when I'm talking to people about it, they don't necessarily want to hear the reality part. I mean, the reality part is that, we're all going to have to stay on this train. This is not going to be one of those situations where he walks in, first college head coaching job, and I can tell you as a former head coach, I mean, there are things about being a head coach that you just do not know if you haven't had a chance until you have a chance to be a head coach. So there's going to be, people pulling you in all kinds of different directions. I always had to take care of fundraising and be at fundraisers, and I've got radio shows and TV shows to do. And, there's always something going on from a management standpoint as the CEO of a team. And he's going to have to get used to that. But at the same time, the fans are going to have to be in this for the long haul. This can't be one that, everybody's excited about in the beginning and they expect they're going to see championships won by Deion Sanders because, he's going into a really good league. I mean, the SWAC is a phenomenal football league. I mean, it is the top black college football conference, in all of this country. And so there are going to be some coaches that that are going to want to introduce Deion Sanders to what this is about. So they're going to have some say so as to how quickly he's going to be able to win. But I think if people stay with him and go through what inevitably is going to be that tough journey from ground zero to actually winning, if people will stick with it and don't get bored with the story, then I think this may be the beginning of something huge happening for historically Black colleges.
Coach Broussard, I mean, he's saying here that it's not about publicity. It's not just about football. It's about an opportunity. I think that's pretty much what we're all saying. Like, you can't just be here because it's the name. They're saying it's a bigger picture to this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I mean, he's Deion Sanders. He's got all the publicity he wants. He doesn't have to go accept a HBCU job to get publicity. You know, he gets that every week on NFL Network or wherever he worked. You know, so that's definitely not the case. I think he genuinely wants to be a coach, wants to get into coaching. I think he genuinely wants to help HBCUs elevate to the next level. And I think, you know, as Coach mentioned, with his personality, you know, he has this outgoing personality that's going to captivate recruits. And he's going to steal some recruits from Ole Miss and Mississippi State. He's going to steal some kids that normally would have went to those SEC schools. He's going to get a few, you know. I did note, I noticed in the press conference, he talked about doing things professional to a professional standard is what he expects out of Jackson State's. And, you know, we all know that HBCUs have had a reputation for cutting corners, you know, when it comes to funding with their sports programs. You know, I've even heard stories of them getting money from shoe companies for their sports program and some of the money, all the money not getting to the athletic programs. So I think Deion's going to put a watchful eye over that. He's going to make sure the funds go into the program. I heard him talk about them upgrading their facilities to be on a next level type of, you know, something that would be attractive to 18-year-old kids to come in and play in a nice facility. So, you know, my thing is, one thing I kind of, and I'm not sure if this is his final coaching staff, I noticed that he is kind of putting a mix of experienced college coaches around him with some NFL names as well. It looks like he has a decent balance. Looks like his coordinators are experienced college coaches and his position coaches are ex-NFL guys. And that's good. You know, the one thing I was always warned about with my time in NFL is that it's difficult sometimes for ex-players to migrate into being coaches on that level because of the amount of time that it requires on the college and NFL level. It requires a lot of time. In my time in Detroit, I got to the office at 4:30 in the morning. The players didn't get there till 8 o'clock. I was there at 4:30 every morning, and I didn't leave until midnight every day. Every day. The players left at 5 o'clock. The players were there from 8 to 5. And the coaches were out there all night. And a lot of ex-players, some ex-players, they're not used to putting in that amount of hours. You know, they want to get into coaching, but when they see what it's all about, sometimes they don't like the time that it requires. And so I'm curious to see how that's going to work out because, you know, we all know just because you're a great player, it doesn't mean you have the ability to be a great coach. It's two totally different talents. And so I want to see him succeed because I think it would be huge for the culture. I think it would be huge for the culture. So I'm rooting for him, and I hope Jackson State gives him at least 4 years to you know, put his stamp down.
Absolutely correct.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good. This is going to be a good one to keep on for it's not even a headline. It's going to be a great story to see it evolve and see how it pans out. Okay, we're going to go there. We're going to recap Week 5 NFL. I will like to say that Thursday night's game, Tampa. So the Bucks took on the Bears, and I posted my picks for the week, gentlemen, but I didn't see yours. I went against Tampa Thursday.
Oh,
and
wow.
Wow. Did you not love the message on that chat? I was like, yes, they won. The Bears won. Can you believe that game? Like,
yeah,
Brady
that was a close game.
it.
Yeah. Wow.
he will never forget that moment. That's for sure.
The NFL
Yeah,
is just
Bitter Brady return.
the NFL is so unpredictable. It is unpredictable. Like it's a crapshoot. It's not like college. The SEC is kind of getting like the NFL, but college, you always got a huge talent gap there. But the NFL is so much parity. It's difficult to pick. It's a hard league to pick.
I got to give you credit, Tracy, for picking that game. I mean, that was a risky pick, and you definitely came through on that one. I would, there's no way I thought that would happen, especially with, Nick Foles getting his first start and all of that. But I'm gonna take a different road here and talk about it from a coaching's perspective. When you're dealing with a high profile veteran, like Tom Brady, and at the end, they had a chance to get themselves into field goal position. Obviously, there was, some talk there of Brady not knowing what down it was. And I think that when you're dealing with a veteran guy, sometimes as a coach, you can fall into the trap of just watching that guy play, and even though that guy's a quarterback and he wants to take charge and he wants to kind of, be the leader of things, sometimes it can put you in a position where you're kind of falling back and just watching him. And I think they got caught in a situation where, there's an offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, there's a head coach who's an offensive guy, in Bruce Arians. There's no way between all of that communication that we can't know where we're at with down and distance, but at that same time, like I said, I mean, you can get into a situation where hey, here's Brady's the GOAT, we're in a GOAT type situation. Let's sit back and watch the GOAT go to work, but you can't stop doing your job. You still got to be in the mix of what's going on and in control of what's going on, and then keeping him, reeled into what's going on. So I blame, not only Brady, but also, as much as I love Bruce Arians and as much as I love the up and coming status of a guy like Byron Leftwich, they kind of failed Brady and the team on that one by not, making sure that they were in ultimate control of the situation instead of just sitting back and watching the GOAT go to work. So, these are still things that you got to figure out by, not having preseason and still having a chance to learn each other. But when those guys go to that meeting room, they'll remember that cannot happen again.
I don't. You're saying because they didn't have preseason, but how many times are we going to use this as an excuse?
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily the excuse that I'm using. I'm just saying that, because they haven't seen very many situations football wise, that, now you can be in a regular season game and you're kind of in awe and you're watching the guy go to work. I mean, you got to know better than that. So I think that, if you had those true clock operating type situations, then at that point you would know that we can't allow this to happen. So I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying that, I can see why it happened and they better learn from it quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that they definitely will. Coach Broussard?
I mean, it goes back to coaching, obviously with Byron Leftwich being a minority in the coaching profession, I want to see him succeed. But I have to be honest, when he first acquired that position, I questioned had he paid his dues to be in that position? Because when you look at his coaching resume, he wasn't a position coach for very long, maybe a year, maybe a year or two. Was he ready to be an offensive coordinator? I can appreciate the fact that he's getting that position, but I feel like that's a coaching, like Coach said, the coach should have been more engaged in the game and not dependent on Brady. And it was a close game. Like I said, all games on that level are going to be really close games. And I think Tampa's shown everything that I want to see offensively, to where I have the confidence I can see they're probably going to be a playoff team. I feel good about that. And it's just a loss. They'll bounce back. Brady's experience, he'll corral them and get them ready for next week.
That's for sure. Well, my guys, the Giants, obviously, we were like this close, but we didn't win. It's a hard pill to swallow when you're in week 5 and you still can't get a game to win. Let's talk about that big injury with the Dallas Cowboys during that game. Dax ankle injury. He went in for surgery.
Yeah,
That,
I watched that live.
like, yeah.
That was hard to look at. Hard to look at. You know, he was trying to make a play. He stiff armed the guy. Dak was trying to make a play. I'm not a guy that believes in, you know, putting your quarterback in danger like that, as far as, you know, allowing him to take off and run like that. I don't think Dak had to run in that situation. I think I know he's trying to get the first down, you know, but you got to think about the long term, maybe getting rid of the football, living to play another day. But, you know, what's Dallas going to look like without him? I don't think they're going to look much different. I feel pretty decent about Andy Dalton. I think he's going to come in and make some plays. I think he's going to be energized to really show that he still has some left in the tank. And I think they're going to lean heavily on the run game. You know, behind Zeke, they got a young kid that's a good number 2 behind Zeke. And I think Dallas is still a playoff team without Dak.
Oh,
I would.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good call, Coach. We'll have to.
Well, they've drafted well. I mean, you look at that team. You look at that team now, and you look at that team maybe before Will McClay got there. Man, I got to compliment that guy. He knows how to build a football team.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he doesn't have the general manager title, which he should have it. But he's the one. He's the one making all those selections. That's Will McClay's footprint, man. And I know the Joneses take good care of him, so he isn't going anywhere. But man, Will McClay has been the mastermind behind the success of the Cowboys.
Yeah. Not just since you brought that up. I mean, not as much talking about the game, but if you're just talking about Will, I mean, he's one of those guys that learned the craft, you know, through the arena leagues and really learned scouting and really learned player evaluation and honed his craft and got that opportunity. Yeah, people don't give him enough credit. Clearly, I mean, it's a guy that both of us know, but he doesn't get enough credit. But he definitely has put together a good team. Now, as far as Dak being out, I agree 100% with Coach Broussard that Andy Dalton is going to be just fine running that team. And you could have made some arguments that, you know, that guy, if they wanted to start him, you know, when Dak was going through the contract stuff, they could have easily still been okay with Andy Dalton. So that's a good pickup by them too. But feel really sorry for Dak, man. I mean, he took the ultimate chance, and the worst thing that could have possibly happened has happened. And he's going to be the loser in this case because and not necessarily financially, because, you know, even if Dallas doesn't re-up him, I mean, someone else is going to pick up Dak Prescott. But as far as being the entrenched starting quarterback at the Dallas Cowboys, this was the absolute worst thing that could have happened. And this is going to be a soap opera watching how this thing plays out.
Yeah,
I
agree.
For sure. Alex Smith, he makes an inspirational return yesterday since November of 2018 when he had that life-threatening leg injury. He hit the field yesterday, Washington. Yeah. And when they panned over to his wife and 3 children, and even though she had a mask on her face, you could feel everything that she was feeling at that moment. And she got up and she was applauding her husband. It was a beautiful moment, but wow, what an incredible story to come back just 2 years after this huge injury. What did you guys think? Good decision to come back because he could get another injury. The same thing could happen. Worth the risk. Coaches, do you think that when you come back from an injury like that, is it worth the risk to get back on that field? Because I get you're passionate about it, you love it, but reality is, what are your thoughts?
I feel you only live once, and you have to do what makes you happy. And if that makes them happy, then, you know, who are we on the outside to say it's not worth the risk? The risks, I feel like when something's worth the risk, it depends on that person. That person decides their own risk. And obviously to him, it's worth the risk. So it is worth it. I'm more amazed that he's able to come back this fast. I mean, it just goes to show you where science and medicine has came, because I'm not exactly sure how his injury would compare to the severity of Joe Theismann. But you see, Lawrence Taylor pretty much ended Joe Theismann's career with a horrific leg injury, but Alex Smith pretty much rivals the same caliber of, leg injury, and he's able to come back. And today's medicine is just phenomenal. The doctors did an amazing job, and I'm just really happy to see him back in football.
Yeah, coach is absolutely right. I mean, it's the risk, whether or not it's worth it or not is all, lies in the mind of the guy who's doing it. But who comes back from that? I mean, 17 surgeries. I mean, that's an injury that we've seen that injury in some people's careers. I mean, that is a testament to that guy and how bad he wants it. I mean, he clearly loves football and wants to play, and and he's done a really good job of getting himself healthy. So he's a feel-good story, and we should all be pulling for him and hope that that thing holds up for him.
No.
Yeah, no, it was a great story. It's a great ending to his story, which, I mean, obviously his story hasn't ended yet, but it was good to see him back on that field. And then, as I said, I'll say it again, to see his wife and his children there supporting him, it was such a sweet moment. Now, yesterday, I had a Thanksgiving get-together. Well, I'll tell you what the topic was. We're talking about NFL recap for Week 5. Uncle Brett was not happy. He came into dinner really upset, and he's upset with Howie Long. I've been trying to get him to clarify what he meant when Fox analyst Howie Long called Chase Claypool a star, while pointing out that he came to the NFL via Canada, which is an odd route to go. I can understand how Uncle Brett would be upset at this. I don't know what Howie meant by this, but I'm almost like I feel offended. Why is it such an odd route to go to get to NFL? Because he's not the only player to get there by that, being Canadian. Coaches. I mean, first off, let's talk about Chase Claypool. Okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, I want you to talk about him, and I want you to explain to me what Howie may have meant by that comment.
Well, I think he meant, how often do you see that route? How often do you see Canadians come into the NFL and are playing at a star level performance? I mean, let's think about it. How often has that happened? So I wouldn't take it personal, Canada, for all our Canadian listeners. I would not take that personal. I would take it as a compliment, actually. The kid had a great day, had a great game. Yeah. I mean, it looks like, they're playing him at receiver. They thought they had a tight end. Well, he's playing as a receiver. He reminds me of DK Metcalf a little bit, just with his physique, and so they potentially have a star player. Canadians should be proud of that. And I wouldn't take Howie's comments personal. He's just maybe poking you a little bit.
Well,
hopefully we can ask him about that if we get him on the show.
Yeah, let's hope that's the case.
And we'll give him that opportunity, Coach Williams.
Yep. Yeah.
I go the other way because I think, being a guy that spent a little time in the CFL, I mean, I would say you should take it personally, because I don't think a lot of people down here really understand, first of all, Canadian, young football players are being developed in Canada. And the big thing is that when a kid can come from Canada and play all of his youth football and developmental football in Canada, and then he gets a Division I, scholarship on the state side of the line, that already proves that guy is at a high level, and that has happened a lot. I think the first round draft pick of the Patriots last year, and I'm losing his name, but he's a wide receiver. He was a Canadian-born kid that comes over and plays college ball in the United States, and Claypool is another one of those kids. So there's a lot of those guys that are playing stateside college football, and that's something that people have to pay attention to. I mean, and these kids they're not just coming down here and playing Division II and Division III. I mean, they're coming down here and they're playing in the SEC. They're playing at Notre Dame like Chase Claypool did. So there's, if you're going to be a football guy, and I would just, just poke it at Howard here a little bit, but I'd say, maybe that's not as odd today as it may have been, say 30 years ago when he was playing, because that developmental system is really starting to improve, and kids are really kicking out of there, and college coaches from up here at the D1 level are going across that line to recruit and sign some of these kids. So there's a load of kids that are playing, and there's a load of kids that are coming down with a lot of talent. Chase Claypool, just specifically talking about him, physical specimen. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger loves him. Mike Tomlin loves him. That's a guy that's got some tools that's really going to be he's going to give them a great number 2 option, and he's going to be a really good receiver coming down the line. So he's an example of that. These kids, when they come out of there, when they come down here, these are good athletes.
Yep. Okay, big headline. Kansas City, they lose. Wow. Did anyone see this happening? Finally, the Chiefs lose. They knocked Mahomes right off his pedestal yesterday, 40-32 for Vegas. Wow. Were you guys surprised about that? No?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, again, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. You always have to keep that in mind when you're watching an NFL game. But, I mean, how about David Carr? He had the game of his life. I mean, he was clicking on all cylinders. I think Chucky called a really good game in his play calling, really balanced game. And, if you go back and watch that game, there was a lot of plays that could have been made that would have turned the course of the game, where receivers dropped balls right in their hands from Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he hit a number of receivers right between the numbers, and they dropped it or didn't get 2 feet down to complete the touchdown, or he made some really good throws and didn't get the performance out of some of his receivers in certain situations that were important that could have changed the course of the game. So, but again, that's what it could have, should have, but hats off to the Raiders. They showed some spunk. But Kansas City, they're gonna lose a few games this year. I mean, but they're still gonna be right there in the hunt, for that for the AFC title and potentially be in the Super Bowl. So I wouldn't, if I were KC fans, I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't hit the panic button, because it's not like the team looked bad. I mean, Mahomes looked great. The offense looked great. They just didn't make a few plays that could change the course of a football game.
Very true. Man, I hate to say anything good about Derek Carr. I mean, I put my fans hat on. I mean, I'm just not much of a Derek Carr guy, but watching what he did, yesterday versus Kansas City, I mean, he went to battle, and he was there for the fight, and he wanted to be in that fight against Patrick Mahomes. So, take hats off to him. I mean, he led him to a victory. I mean, Gruden, put a great plan together for him. But, like I say, coming out of coach mode and going into fan mode, I mean, it's just tough for me to cheer for Derek Carr. But yesterday he looked like an elite guy that was ready to lead a team to some winning. So, we'll see how that goes from here.
Well, question for coaches right now. There's a couple teams that have been rescheduled because of COVID. They got the virus, they're sick, or they had to reschedule the game. So some of them are playing on Tuesday, because Tuesday's game is a Buffalo. It's Buffalo and the Titans, I think, are playing on Tuesday. The question that's going around, and I thought that it was one that I wanted to discuss with you guys really quickly. What are your thoughts? Should they reschedule the games, or should they forfeit? Because now our NFL schedule is kind of all over the place. Coach
I think
Broussard, what are your thoughts on that one?
I think you have to reschedule them, because it's going to cause a lot of confusion at the end of the season when you're trying to sort out your playoff teams. If you forfeited games, and you gotta play those, you gotta make those dates up if you can. And I think so far the NFL is doing a decent job of rescheduling the games. I mean, we knew this could potentially be an issue when we first decided to play a season. So hopefully they had a plan, at that point, which it looks like they're executing that. But at this point, this is going to be the new normal. This is going to be something that we have to deal with
Mhm.
throughout the year. You're going to have Tuesday games. You're going to have makeup games. You have to be extra careful. If you get a positive test on the team, you have to, exhaust all, get everyone tested, and make sure you're playing as safely as possible. So hats off to the NFL for erring on the side of caution.
Mhm.
Yeah,
James?
the only thing I would add to that is coach is exactly right. I mean, they knew what was coming down the pipe, so they got to work with it. So I don't see any reason to forfeit any games. But if we're just keeping it real, from my standpoint, I mean the teams have got to help this situation work. I mean you can't, the players can't be hanging around in the parking lot in circles with no mask and going all different places around the city. I mean the teams have got to get control over some of these guys and reel them in. I mean, we don't have a bubble in the NFL. I mean, so you got to play as closely to the rules as you possibly can, so that we don't keep running into this stuff. And but that's just my take on it. I think in house, there's some things that need to happen a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, coaches, let's talk about college football. Give me your recap. What was going on this week? What do I need to know? Coach Broussard, take it away.
I mean, to recap the entire weekend, I can definitely give some insight on some of the games that stood out to me. And obviously, I wanted to see that Miami and Clemson game. I wanted to see if Miami was the real deal, like they had been saying. And Clemson was going to be a really good measuring stick for that. And so, we kind of saw how that went. And then, another game that stood out was, of course, the Alabama and Ole Miss game. And Coach mentioned to me, pre-show about some of the accusations from Coach Saban, about Lane Kiffin possibly still in their signal. And that, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
he's had some type of, allegations follow him wherever he's been. So is Saban, over the top for making these allegations? I don't think so, because there's been too many people that have said this type of stuff about Lane Kiffin for it not to be true. I mean, and so I could see it. I could see him texting somebody in that Alabama football department, asking questions. I wouldn't put it past him. He did the same thing with Urban Meyer when he was at Tennessee against Florida. He's always had this type of uncertainty surround his teams. So, did it matter? Alabama still stumped them, but we've never seen Alabama give up 45 points, was it? We've never seen Alabama defense give up that many points, and I know Ole Miss has a good offense. They ran up, they put up some points against Florida, even though Florida struggled. But, I just think it's one of those things. There's been so many Power 5 schools that have struggled defensively. I mean, look down the charts. Look at all the scores. Everybody's getting 30 and 40 put up on them. So is it the modified practices that we experienced leading up to the season? There wasn't as much contact, maybe. We didn't do a lot of tackling drills. We had a lot of our meetings were Zoom meetings versus practices. Are we seeing a result of that? And will the defensives catch up? I mean, at some point, these head coaches are going to get frustrated, and they're going to put pressure on their defense coordinators to get it together. So that's all I got on it. What do you got, Coach?
I mean, just as far as Alabama, Ole Miss, I would quickly say that when Saban called it out, I hadn't thought about it, as I was watching the game, but when he called it out after the game, and he was saying like every call that we were making, they had the perfect play to match the call. And when you think of it like that, and it happened to the tune of them scoring, 40 plus points. I mean, you could see that. And with Lane Kiffin's history, you could see that I don't think Saban would say that if he didn't have merit to say that. But if they were in the perfect call versus the defense, every time the defense made an adjustment, then obviously I would say something was going wrong there. But to me, the weekend, I thought we got to see the real Miami, and I thought we got to see the real Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee was one that, everybody's thinking maybe turning the corner. Miami is a team that people are thinking are ready to play again, and I felt like we saw the versus Georgia and versus Clemson, for the two of them, we saw the real deal kind of float to the top. So those are my takeouts from that. But otherwise, really good football weekend.
I mean, Tennessee is improved.
Yeah, really.
They
good
are
football.
definitely.
They're definitely improved.
Yeah.
As a Florida fan, we got to play them. It concerns me. I think they're going to give us a good game because, I mean, as you saw, if you watch the Texas A&M Florida game, Florida's defense can't stop anybody. I mean, it is bad, I mean, and so they got to get that fixed. I mean, if you watch that Florida Texas A&M game, Florida was going down on a winning drive, which they couldn't stop Florida's offense all day, and then Florida fumbles around the 50-yard line, and then Texas A&M gets the ball, drives down 20 yards, and kicks a field goal. So it's I think at the end of the day, we're gonna see potentially a 2-loss SEC team get into the playoffs because the way the schedule has been revamped to where it's just a full SEC schedule. That's like an NFL schedule. You might have a 2-loss team get into the college football playoffs. So just be prepared for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So tonight, I want two things from you guys. Ready? Tonight, who do you think is going to win? Chargers or the Saints? And who is your game ball going to for week 5? I mean, I can start. I have no problem since I'm usually right.
You go first.
I'm going to go with the Saints. I'm going with the Saints tonight for the win. And my game ball is going to Derek Carr. I know it's one of your favorites. Obviously, for obvious reasons, he was a star. He totally took Mahomes for a ride, and I absolutely loved it. That's all I'm gonna say. Coach Broussard, what do you say?
I'll let Coach go. I'll let Coach go first. You get that.
Okay.
I don't agree with your game ball, so I'm going to say that out of the gate. My game ball. I gave my game ball to Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, he's got a 4-0 team. That was a really good, convincing win that they had this weekend against the Eagles. I felt like he's quietly gonna put himself in a position where we may be looking at another Super Bowl year for him. So really thought he played an outstanding game as far as the game ball goes. And as far as tonight goes with the Saints, I mean, I'm a Saints fan, have always been. And right now I'm not a believer in Justin Herbert. I'm not a believer in the Chargers right now. So I think we'll see Alvin Kamara have a really good night. And I think we'll see Drew Brees, show us, the old Drew Brees tonight on a Monday night stage. So look for that. And that's where I'm at.
And
okay, Coach Broussard, you're up.
I'm gonna go Saints as well for tonight's game, or for this week's game. I'm gonna go Saints because I'm not a Justin Herbert believer either. I think he's just, he's just a guy that was a really good college player that was kind of thrown in there. No one had a game plan for him. Made some splash plays, got some media attention. But him being a rookie against Drew Brees, the Saints have probably been hard at it to reevaluate their start so they can correct a lot of their mistakes. So I think the Saints are going to come out firing on all cylinders. Game ball, that's a tough one. I think I'm gonna go outside the box. I'm gonna give it to Fitzpatrick, the quarterback from the Dolphins. He was on fire. He had a good game.
Good. Yeah,
I'm gonna give it to Fitzpatrick. Yeah.
And just so we know, just to clarify, I did pick the Dolphins for a win for week 5.
I did not expect them to beat the 49ers. That was, no one did. So
I did.
Yeah, there you go. The 49ers got some.
I'm going to keep saying it.
What made you pick the Dolphins?
I just had this gut feeling that they were going to do it because it was about time. But then again, I also thought the Giants were going to bring it. They brought it. They just didn't finish. Yeah. So Miami, I had a feeling that they were going to do it. They wanted it, and they won.
Yeah, but I mean, the 49ers they were a Super Bowl team last year, and you just really thought, okay. My thing was,
but it's 2020, the new season.
I thought it would be a close game, but I thought San Francisco would win. With Kyle Shanahan's play calling, I thought that would be the difference in the game. I also thought that with the 49ers having a lot of defensive linemen out right now, they're kind of banged up along the defensive line. I thought that would give Miami that edge to be able to put up some points, which they did. But I just didn't expect, San Francisco to only give you 17 points. So, I'm super shocked that Miami pulled it out. I'm happy Miami pulled it out because that head coach really needed to get a win. So I'm super excited for that. So hopefully he can keep it going. But I give my game ball to Fitzpatrick.
Sounds good. Well, gentlemen, thank you again for another episode of Play Callers Podcast. And everybody, make sure you go to our Facebook page, check out our social media, make sure you follow us, and don't forget Coach Broussard's foundation. Go help him out, go to the GoFundMe page. Guys, I hope you have a great Monday, and I look forward to talking to you about next week's headline.
Awesome. Have a good week.
Awesome.
God bless.